Hmm. Word, Microsoft Word. Yeah, I mean the first three is kind of illegal, no? Like, how have you managed to get Polt, Terra Enam, and then a Pagos? I mean, to be fair, even putting Room Wash on it is kind of illegal. I don't know. How did someone even get the first three? I don't get it. Well, well, I guess we'll get to that. Yeah, I mean this is the thing though, isn't it? Like, Paldex, honestly, you can go to 16-person pools and every team still looks good. But anyway, that just seems really broken. That top three. Terra Crown's pretty good secondary cap. It's not necessarily reliant on it, so it's pretty good there. Yeah, you got most things. Quillfish, you got spikes. Ticks most boxes basically. Um, you have the fighting to help with darks and steals, which will be a bit annoying for your top end. Even normals for Holt. So yeah, pretty well rounded. Don't really have any complaints about this. Speed tiers are there. You have like not quite the fastest mon in the format. That'd be Electrode. No, Deoxys Speed even. Oh no, Regieleki. I forgot Regieleki exists too. Um, yeah, it's dog shit without Terra. Um, but yeah, Holt, Venian, you're doing well on that. So I mean, out of 10, that's probably a 9. Yeah, it could probably get more broken, like if you got luckier. But yeah, and also I've just not racing Conk much, so I don't actually know how good it is, even though in theory it should be fine. Yeah, Terra Latias, we know that's really good in 8 mon. I believe it just, at least from what I'm aware of, it's not quite as good in 11, but it's still very good. Terra Cat, Zamacy we know is just dum dum. So yeah, there's that. Yeah, Cloaking's always good. What I will say though is you've drafted a Zamacy, but where's your Dark type? Um, that's my question. Yeah, you also don't have a Ghost type. So the big issue with Zamacy is you can't beat Ghosts. Most Ghosts can beat Zamacy in one way or another. How crunch sets or just raw forays aren't necessarily going to beat them. For example, Driftblim walls literally every single Zamacy set, and you have, well, Driftblim's not quite as bad because you have a Zapdos, but a lot of ghosts you're not going to be able to pressure quite as well without having a dark or a ghost yourself, and not having a dark anyway is kind of weird when you got a Latias. Sure, you're going to terror it, but I would still like to have a dark on this roster, and then you've just kind of grabbed 4 shitmons at the end, so you kind of have a 7-mon draft without some of the core support you need on the top end. So yeah, the top end's really broken, but it's a bit limited. No, Rhyperior is pretty good. I think Rhyperior is good, but yeah, I mean in the sense that it's your only hazard setter and you have a Cinderace. Yeah, I mean it's your only hazard setter. So Cinderace doesn't always want to run court change. You have no spikes. You know there's some issues, but yeah, you can carry with top end maybe. Yeah, uh, 6.5 maybe. I don't necessarily want to give it 7 because I think there's some like big holes because of the fact that you're basically running a 7-mon draft without like key support, but the top end possibly good enough to go to a 7, like 6.57. Yeah, top four's really disgusting. Terras though, I I've not really seen Terra Camerot before. It doesn't need Terra. Yeah, I mean it's probably fine, but there's just stronger Terras you can get. Reuniclus Terra, I'm kind of excited. Although, to see how well that actually does. Yeah, it should in theory be quite good with Terra. Honestly, I feel like, well, I think 13 the Terra is probably correct, but also this mon's been dropping in price like legal needs just because people aren't drafting Reuniclus, so I semi feel like you got slightly ripped off for it, but hopefully that pays off. Yeah, because IOPS is old. There's reasons. Because when DLC 2 dropped, Arena cost was a lot higher because it's been good in past gens, and it is probably still good in SV. People just aren't drafting it. Yeah, I mean, what I will say is Uniclus is probably, in terms of playstyle, a bit slow for the P SV metagame. So yeah, I can't say much about it because I've simply not seen it used, but it's pretty cool. So I'll give it that. Yeah, top end's fine. Removal, I mean, you have a tentacruel. That's good enough. I mean, like it's always going to be limited to some degree. You're not going to get 2 spinners. Tentacruel is a fine enough spinner for PDEX. In an ideal world, you get another one off, but like this team can go. This team can play HO, so you don't necessarily need to have like the most concrete removal in the world. So- Yeah, and you have a spin blocker and regular rotom that tends to be a pretty decent one, so that's nice. Um, yeah, I mean, I guess bulkier team structures can be a little bit flimsy with. I mean, Reunicus is fine, but you don't really have the right tools for that. But you don't have to play that way. SV is quite offensively good, so not really a huge issue on that front. Yeah, I mean, Rotom I get. Duraludon, I don't know, man. Oh, fair enough then. Yeah, okay. If that's your best way of phasing it, then fair enough. Which probably does make sense because Garchomp, I think, can phase, but then you're not going to deal with Terra Fairy, for example. Yeah, yeah, yeah. No, no, I know with Dragon. That's what I mean with Dragon Tail. I meant Dragon Tail. It was just that if you Terra Fairy, it's not going to do anything. Plus D-Gleam, so Garchomp as a Bar Protect isn't going to be the best. Um, yeah, hard to say. It was a bit weird. But I don't think it's bad. I don't think it's bad. Um, I'm happy to give this like a 7.5 ish around that region. I think not having like a really crazy terror cap probably lets this down a bit, but it can work. I think you lose a bit of punch by not having that. Yeah, okay. Yeah, there's a few weird things. You got it kind of just looks like matchup fish central. Just got a load of different. Yeah, I mean the way I see this team playing is just like Psycho 8 show with matchup fishes, depending on like what happens. That could work quite well. Um, yeah, yeah, it's a bit weird. Yeah, so it's basically Psycho HO. I mean, I guess I would have liked on this sort of archetype like a better suicide lead or something like that. Because Fortress is not it. It's quite yeah, that's a shame. More would have been good, but you brown forwarded on Dozo, so I mean that's probably where that went wrong. Or you could have yeah, I mean, round three Glamora on this would have been better because no one's taking Volcarona anyway for the most part. It's not very popular mon. Yeah. Is purely a matchup fish, and on this sort of build where you've literally drafted Superior as well, even Ape in some cases can be a matchup fish. Dondozo is quite limited. Boulder is very limited, especially about Terra. Um, yeah, it's fine. Yeah, it's actually totally okay. Yeah, Ment's same kind of thing, and then even Sceptile for the funny, haha, Shedtail. Looks like a kind of fun team to use, but because inherently of the way that you're going to have to build with it, it's probably not going to be the most consistent. So I don't know how to rate it for that reason. Um, yeah, I mean, I think I could put this a little bit higher if it had the better tools for this Psycho HO stuff. Because your hazards just aren't good enough, and I don't see why Sandaconda's on this team. Um, Sandaconda doesn't make sense to me, frankly. I mean, even Dozo's a bit. I know Dozo can work with the curse sets. I guess you're just running curse every time you bring it. But yeah, I do. Yeah, I mean, I agree. It's a bit of a momentum thing. But if you're running curse every week as like a win con, it's not too bad. That's kind of the way I see it. But I don't think you can bring another set on that Mondo. I really don't know how to. Okay, if I want to give it a score, I can just like give it uh I don't know, like, probably around the same rating as Axel's, just odd at face value. But if this team had better hazards, maybe I'd have a better way of rating this. But the hazards are just kind of bad. I mean, commitment to the meme, especially if they draw through the rest of the Reggies. But anyway, yeah, I figured as much. Yeah. Considering what was left around, you actually managed to draft around a Terra Sneasler somewhat well. Bit slow momentum, you got Terrain and Fwaki for enabling that mode when you need it. You have obviously Sneasler really wants to be able to break past poison types especially, because those are generally big issue for Sneasler, so having Mesprit's good, having Shocks is good. Maybe would have liked some stronger mons in terms of Psychic and Grounds, but, the thought was there. You got what you needed, and Shocks provides hazard support, so that's great. Yeah, yeah, yeah. No, it did get a buff, but it's still like a mid-tier psychic. Like there are better mons to get for this sort of role. But it depends on what was left. Depends on what was left. Like I would have even preferred ourself because it's just slightly more offensively capable than Mesprit is. But You know, if we're going down for lake spirits. But that's I digress. Yeah, no, I mean I did talk about the terrain. Yeah. No, it does help with setup, even if you are weakening its power of its earthquake, which it does like to run sometimes. Um, but yes, gouging fire can kind of honestly, gouging fire doesn't need like a huge amount of team support. It just kind of needs to have like good enough removal. Corv can work if I'm gonna say anything. It's the fact that this team doesn't have a spit. Okay, no, it does have a spinner. There's an Avalok. Doesn't have a reliable spinner. How to is what I should say. Because you don't really want to be fogging away both sides on this sort of team. So there's that. Yeah, exactly. And Registil's kind of a fat momentum sink, which I really don't like. On this type of team that doesn't really want to be doing that. Yeah, they all are. But yeah. I think it is a little bit too reliant on top end for its offense. So it might like if someone preps around like gouging fire properly, then you might not be able to break because Sneasler's really kind of a cleaner in this matchup. Yeah, you kind of have these middle tier wall breakers, but I don't really see the punch outside of gouging fire. So I feel like you're a bit too centralized on offense. So I'll give it 6. Yeah, but yeah. But standalone, especially without Terra, not sure how I feel about it. Yeah, obviously. But there, yeah, but this, yeah, which is trolling yourself. No wonder I had to make trades. Um, sure. I mean, I don't know why we've got these two as the Terra caps. I see it, but I don't see it. I mean, Sarah Ledge Terra's fine. Yeah, but I would rejig things and give that to like Thunder Aspherian. Frankly, it's I think standalone Fundy T. There's not that many archetypes that's gonna fit on without Terra. It really does want that in SV, in my opinion, for anything offensive. Um, yeah, I guess you have hazards all dealt with Gliscor. Your removal is Sizzle though, and that's really bad considering you have a Cerulege and a Thunderous T. Like, oh no, sorry, you Spin and Blast. Oh no, I take it back. Yeah, okay. But the problem is that the reason why I didn't notice that initially is because you're a Terra Blastoise, so you don't even want to be running Spin if you're going to be running Terra on that thing. You just want to be running Shell Smash. Yeah, but you have an A9. Like it kind it's what I'm a bit baffed on is sort of what this team is trying to be identity wise. I don't know if it's trying to be an HO or if it's trying to be like some bulky offense with like a Moongus, Gliscor. I mean, that's even leaning towards balance for that matter. Like, I don't really get the identity of this team, which is kind of my issue. Gallade's kind of there. Don't know what it's doing. Um, yeah, I mean, yeah, sure you do want the fighting. Sure, I mean I don't hate it that much. It just looks really weird at face value. There's just what strikes me about this is there isn't like a huge PowerPoint. There's not like, oh yeah, I see this and I'm like really scared of one particular thing. Um, that's kind of my issue with it. It's a bit underwhelming, and I don't really get the game plan with this really. So yeah, unfortunately, his offenses aren't actually that high. If you're not prepared for it, then yeah, sure, it can still smoke you. That's very much possible. Listen, that's not even a skill issue. You can position it well. It's not. It's a mon you 100% have to prep for because if you don't, you will get screwed over by Smash. And with Terra, that does make it a little bit more stringent. But I would have liked to see that maybe on a Thunderous T. I think you're going to get more out of the wall breaking capacity out of that, for example. But yeah, I don't really get the game plan. Is my take on that. I mean, it's not that dreadful, so I'll give it a 6. Yeah, I can't really go wrong with that. Like with two Terra caps, Sinistras is something I'm always a big fan of. So that's nice. Do you have spikes? No, that's unfortunate. Oh no, you do. It's Oak Half Flame. It doesn't really count though, because it's Half Flame. Um, but the problem with Half Flame is you have to have good removal around it, and you drafted bundle 2, so you do need good removal. And yes, there's a Cyclozar, but you don't really want to be bringing that every week. Would have liked to see a bit more emphasis on that, considering some of the mons you've drafted. So yeah, I don't really see Half Flame getting enabled very well either. As a result of that, I think Bundle's gonna have to run boots more often than it might like to. Guess we'll see. But bundle's fine. It's just bundle. Um, yeah, Hydro Miss. Yeah, I like the Pheasant Dipity. It makes a lot of sense here. That's good. Good. Yeah, I mean, I guess Sinistro works on the other front. Yeah, no, you're fine against grounds. Good enough against grounds. Um, Offensively, you're dealing with them. Yeah, exactly. On Bolt, absolutely. So that's okay. Um, yeah, I guess it makes sense. I mean, I would have liked to see some more high power stuff because the kind of like round four, round five, round six is a bit weird. I think round four Tinkaton is like super early, and I don't know why it's been drafted on this draft anyway. Outside of just type chart drafting, which is not how you should be drafting. Yeah, on this team, Landorus is not doing offensive stuff. Sure, you want another rocker for Lando, so that makes sense. But there's a lot of other mons that can set rocks. I would have really loved to see something like a Yuxi on this team. Yuxi Raging Bolt's always a great combination. And Yuxi can do most of the things, and Tinkaton doesn't. It's not momentum sinks. You can just U-turn back out into something like Bundle quite safely. So yeah, I think you replace Tinkaton for something like a Yuxi, that'd be cool. What, Shedtail? I mean, it'll be okay. I don't really think Shedtail like benefit. I mean Shedtail is Shedtail. It's fine. I don't really think it's like a huge deal. How it helps position things, but it's not like a broken move or anything. You just got to hit into the Cyclosar every time it's out. Simple as that. And if they position in such a way that you can't break the Saab when it gets put into something, then that's either them playing better or you not prepping well enough. Yeah, if this had like a better round 4 to 6, that would have been nice because I don't. The hazards aren't really where I'd like to be. And then Goffert is usable. Mibostif is not usable. Um, yeah, I don't know how to say. I mean, you got these setup threats. This team is kind of, yeah. You don't like taunt very much. For some of it. How do I rate this on a scale? I mean, I don't think it's that bad. I think you have enough power on this team, even if I think it could be improved a lot. Oh, I'm down for another 6.5 to 7 with this. Yeah, let's give it. I can give it a 7. I think that there's enough room for improvement and 3 points on top end for this. Yeah, you had a great two first picks and then completely trolled your draft with the third one. And actually, to be honest, you kind of just trolled most of the rest of this, in my opinion. I mean, feel free to prove me wrong. Well, you can't draft this slow in PDEX, frankly. It's just too. You're just going to get dominated by every single powerful offensive mon. And then you picked Esparfo, which is purely a skill issue terror. Very easy to beat if you actually know what you're doing. And then Garg, which, yeah, you just drafted two matchup fish terrors. In a nutshell, team doesn't have enough offense. That's my opinion. You kind of just slammed points everywhere. Reggie Drago's, yeah, another matchup fish. I don't know what Volcanion's doing on this team. It's just there. Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, when you draft a Great Tuscan, then not enough mons that really want to benefit from it being the best spinner in the format. So you could have drafted some more hazards weak things to actually be able to make the most of them being able to use items that aren't heavy duty boots. But you decided Volcanion, Kilowatch, all those two mons, and Kilowatch really doesn't mind having to run boots all the time because it's fine as a pivot. Um, yeah, I don't like this at all, really. I think it's very unreliable, and versus players that actually know how to prep into it, I think you're just gonna really struggle. Like if Tusk can pull off everything it needs to, then fine, but it's never gonna be able to do that. Reliably. Uh, I almost want to give it a 4. Like even but Great Tusk can carry. Great Tusk Meow can carry, and I'm gonna give it a 5. I'm gonna give it a 5 for that reason. Because Great Tusk Meow is good enough in many matchups to be able to help you a lot, and I guess you might skill issue some with the Sparfra. So yeah, no, I think Grant's first pick's fine. Like especially later in round 1, that's okay. And Terra Grant, I think is underutilized, and I think it's underutilized. It's a great battle bond cleaner with Terra, and it's not like a huge tax. Yeah, and then single strike Terra is okay if a bit expensive here, but it's okay. Yeah, no, exactly. That is what it does. It just has a big issue with speed. Thankfully, you got your elite speed sorted in your first pick, so that's not like a massive issue to think about. I do like to try and fit webs onto Shifu teams because it's a really big prep threat. So I guess I would have liked to see webs instead of something like a Magmortar, which isn't going to do anything. Kamala's usable. I actually think Kamala's usable, though for 3 points, it's like slightly pricey. But I actually think I actually think Kamala's a very bringable mon. Well, it's removal, but it's also status absorber. You have to remember this. And Mon has 115 base attack, so it's not exactly that passive. Um, yeah, it's quite strong. It's just not particularly bulky. But you can throw an AV on it. That tends to be a common item for Kamala. AV, spin, knockoff, whatever. It gets the job done. And absorbs hazards for stuff like Shifu. Otherwise, purely a breaker. That's all. Yeah, I mean, I suppose I would have liked to see, because Lando is obviously mostly just the power is the earth power. You really want to have stuff that can actually pressure grass types, pressure waters. Gren can help a little bit, but would have liked better electric type than Electros. Electros is slow, like something more offensive. This team would have benefited from a Killer Watchel, for example. No, Aleki's just bad. Yeah, a better electric type would have been cool. Yeah, Metagross is kind of there. I mean, I don't know how I feel about Metagross and PDEX. Team is, yeah, I mean, it's okay. It's okay. Hazards wise, what we're looking at, Screen Tile. No spikes as always. I know you spikes on Gren actually, but Gren doesn't. I think on this team it doesn't always want to be spiking. Um, yeah, exactly. Well, not every single game, but a lot of games it'll be battle bond. Yeah, so would have liked some better hazards. Hazard control's good enough for the most part. A good spin blocker, for example. Yeah, because you have a good spin blocker, it would have been nice. Yeah, Petron's a great mod. I think it's underrated definitely at the moment. So I think round three is a bit early for it, but if you wanted to use the mod, then that's fine. Yeah. I think my one issue is that it's quite centralized around Gren, Shifu, and I don't think there's quite enough enablers for them, in my opinion. I think it's gonna be difficult to get into game states where Gren can clean, where Shifu's not being pressured or getting only trading one for one. You don't really want it to just be trading one for one in a game like this. Lando doesn't have polish anymore, so that's a problem. You can only use it as a breaker. And Electros, as I said, isn't quite the electric you want. So yeah, I don't think it's that bad. I think it's going to struggle to actually get itself in win compositions, which is why I'm going to give it a 6. Yeah, that's exactly your problem. If you get caught out by some random prep for between Gren or Shifu, I think you're going to really struggle to be able to win the game. Yeah, Palafin Iron Shreds is a tried and true combo of Palafin that is kind of just like the go-to that people have found out. I don't know. Well, I mean, it does make sense. You get enough compression, you get the momentum between them. Palafin teams like to have heavy momentum. Terra Taunty is broken, so that's great. Yeah, Terra Taunty's broken. You got a little bit of regen going on with Hydrapple. Horror can pull off some funny things, so that's cool. Yox's defense, I think, is not great, but it is not a bad spiker. So I see the angle on it. Terra Jugglers would have rather had Terra Moth and just put something else in this slot. That's my opinion. But Terra Moth is a large attack, so depends on price points. But realistically, on Taunty teams, I don't really like to have like a particularly powerful second captain anyway, because you just want to be tearing this mon 90% of the time. So yeah, I guess Jugulus is fine if it's like a cheap tax, I suppose. But I don't. The problem with Jugulus is it's got too much overlap with Taunty, so I just don't really. Well, Jugulus doesn't get boosting, but yeah, they're both flying type breakers, so I don't really get the whole deal with that. Would have liked an electric type on this team too. And I suppose, yeah, I mean, Taunty can beat most of its checks anyway of plots, so that's not really a huge concern. Um, yeah, no, I actually quite like this. I think if you replace like Jugulus, maybe I think Horroc's funny, but I don't think it's like the best fit for this team. So if you like replace Jugulus Horrock with some more mons that can maybe give this team a little bit more defensive capability to be able to play like a BO a bit better than it currently can, this could be really good. As it currently stands, I will give it an 8. Yeah. Yeah, unfortunately, it can't Terra, so it's not actually that great. It's a fine breaker, but where's the support for it? I don't see any support for backs. There's no snow. Without Terra, the Mon really wants snow though. Without Terra, frankly, yeah, with Terra, it's just banned straight up. Yeah, Terra Manaphy isn't something I haven't seen for a while, but I know it can be quite good. So yeah, and I like Rillaboom with it because that gives it the extra recovery. Maybe would have liked to see just a random Polytoad or something slapped on here just for occasional hydration. It can click Rain Dance itself, so. Yeah. That's cool. Heatran's generally fine with Rillaboom teams. That's like a pretty common pairing. Although I don't think Heatran's needed on this team, but you can just use it as a breaker. That's fine. Yeah, Glim gives the spikes. I guess the issue is that your removal is just the Glim as well, but when it comes to these teams, you can kind of just set it. I mean, yeah, but you're not running defog. More breaker defog is extremely niche. It's not. Yeah, exactly. So within your div, you're not even facing it. It's a bit moot. Yeah, God was an icebreaker. Smeargle can do its thing, and Cloth has its matchups. So yeah, Cloth has its matchups. So I mean, hmm. I guess you actually, you do have the breaking. I would say my main complaint with this team is it has like fuck all momentum. You're if you're not doubling in the right positions, if you're not trying to keep up offense by just sacking your mons or doing stuff like Memento and Glamora, you could struggle a bit. But the team has the offense to be able to play things out. So I like that at least. Yeah, I mean, yeah, no, God of War's a lot better. Dosho is not a real Pokemon. I'm sorry. Even if it can trap, it's kind of bad. It has its place. It has its place. If you're on a team that really wants to trap stuff and get rid of like electric types, for example, then sure. But you have a Terra Manaphy, so I don't think you're that concerned about electric types, to be honest. Yeah, but not having a ground type is a slight concern. It's the same reason. It's the exact same reason, which is my main problem with this team. You're kind of prone to getting momentum vortexed. Simple as that. You have your momentum is what Rillaboom and Memento and Glamora, which is really bad. Oh, okay. Well, you're never clicking that on Goldengo, frankly. You'll click it on Glim because it's a fucking suicide lead, but you're never clicking on Dengo. Yeah, you're prone to getting Vortex, and that can just screw you over because you're not actually a very fast team. Your fastest mono's Lucha, and that's generally going to be a cleaner. So you're a slow team that's prone to get Momentum Vortex. And whilst I see the game plan, you're going to really struggle into a lot of teams. Nah, I probably lean more 6.5 than anything else, yeah. Like low 7 kind of area, because Edex is very offensive, and playing a slower team that can get fucked by momentum is not good. It's a big weakness. Yep, Spectra King Gambit is extremely funny and very good synergistically because Spectra always loves a big daddy dark type to go alongside it. So King Gambit does that perfectly. Even if it's gonna Terra, it can be funny, haha. Can you beat the Sucker Punch? Yeah, exactly. Sucker Punch or Kowtow, call it. Yeah, Shifu Rapid Strike, fine. Secondary, like, yeah, okay, it's there. I mean, maybe I would have went cheaper on the secondary because Gambit wants to Terra a lot. So, sure. I don't mind Empo. Empo's good roll compression here, especially since Gambit's like not your kind of main steel. So I don't mind stacking a steel type. Oh, Jesus Christ, I only just saw that. Yeah, you don't need that many steals. You really don't. Yeah, that's a bit excessive. And Clefairy's your fairy is kind of bad. Yeah, okay, it kind of went downhill after the top four because you spent so many points and then you spent a lot on a Terra Shifu, which I think is a waste of points. You don't need it to be Terra. You can just get a cheap Terra cap with Gambit. It just looks like they didn't have the points budget or to properly furnish out this team, and with the points they did spend, they spent it on getting 2 more steel types, a useless Staraptor. Yeah. No, it gets it in that dex. Yeah, that sure, that's a slight concern, but it's not a huge one. You have a good spin blocker. Yeah, I guess your hazards are a bit weak because Toad School has to be a spike setter, and it doesn't always excel in setting spikes. So, I think you start off well and then just fail to round off the team. So I think you're really lacking support. And as much as I hate to say it, but like I think you really screwed up on the bottom side. Like this could be. I'm sure there's enough mons on the rest of the board to be able to make this into like a 9 out of 10 team, but right now it's not even close to that. So if I'm to rate that, yeah, I would probably drop bottom 5. I'd remove Tara off of Shifu and rejig that. Shifu Rapid's fine on this team, for the record. It is fine. You want the big fighting type. That's a good thing to have. But yeah, you also don't have a fairy. This team really wants a good fairy. For both dark types and fighting types, so you're just not really pressuring the things that Spectre and Gambit want to be able to deal with properly, and you don't have the right defensive support. Oh yeah, this team doesn't even have a ground and poison, so that's another minus. But you have, I mean, as it stands, you have a lot of steel, so technically this team, as it stands, doesn't care about ground and poison. But if you are to rejig it, then yeah, you'll probably want ground and poison. But this team doesn't actually care about T Spike, so like yeah, in a vacuum, it doesn't need it. But if you were to, yeah, as I say, rejig, probably six. Yeah, but you still have a very strong top end. So it's like look like Gambit Spectra can just run away with games in all of it. And like Empo, the one thing that I will say is Empo Rapid Food Rotom Heat. That is momentum, and you can get your mons positioned quite well between that, even if you might not necessarily be able to get the breaking for the end game. It's there. Yeah, no. Terra Water Pond's great. It doesn't always need the Terra. So I think going Terra Goth is I think a bit of a waste of points. Personally, don't see why this team needs that. Just go cheap. Just go cheap Terra. Do what Metro has done in the last like 2 8 mons that I've seen in Smogon. Just get the Terra Articuno with it. It's really good with Wellspring. Just a good cheap Terra Cap Wellspring. That's all you need. Um, yeah, Zapdos Tinglu. That seems fine. I don't know why we're going Cinderace though. No. I mean like on a Tinglu team. Tinglu's an amazing spike setter. Why are we running Court Change? So let's get spin on this. You have an amazing spiker, you have an amazing spin blocker, but then we got court change and no rapid spin. It doesn't make sense to me. Replace Gothitelle with a good spinner, and then you've got a really good team base. Yeah, no, just Gothitelle makes zero sense. Like, get rid of Gothitelle. You don't need a 2 point Startler. Get rid of that for like some random 1 point, or just get rid of it completely so you can have something more with more points. Gothitelle, split that across 2 mons. Knuckle Stack and Ariados are fine as low tiers, but they can actually do something in specific matchups. I like those two. That's fine. Um, but yeah, just get a spinner on this team. Just genuinely, just get a spinner. You're in a much better spot. Yeah. I mean, I guess the one thing is you have a poison type that isn't a T Spiker on this team. Would have been nice, but I guess you don't spin anyway. But yeah, get a spinner. Yeah. But you always actually have Ariados while I'm talking. You can actually T Spike on that. That's fine. Yeah, no, I take it back. Yeah, just get rid of Golf and Staltner, and then put a spinner. And this team's like really insane. Currently, I'd still give it an 8. Yeah, I really don't know. That top 3 is kind of disgusting too. Terra Necro, I will say, keeps disappointing me, but when you have like prepping for that, just seems like a complete nightmare because Zamacy you have to have very dedicated prep for. Then you need to not lose to Battlebond Gren. And the Necro, you can never predict what set that's running in a given week, so that's really cool. Um, Swampert Moltres is a classic. I have done Swampert with Fire Flying before many a time. It's just consistent. Mine is a Tamflame, yeah. But it's the same principle. It's still Fire Flying with U-turn, even if it's slower. But it's more offensively capable, so same thing really. Yeah, no, I sure, but I mean, G-Weeze isn't even necessarily the right fairy for this team. I mean, it's fine, I guess. Yeah, I won't complain too much about G-Weeze. I mean, you got the Pert Moltres, like Pert could have been around for, so I don't really think you lost out on that much. I mean, as I've been saying a lot, where's the spinner? Where's your removal? It's just Defog and G-Weeze. That's not good enough. Even if this team isn't going to be like a huge spike stacking team, like I just PDEX for me. I think you really do just need a spinner on like on most team archetypes. Most, not all. Some like really, some like very dedicated HO teams don't need it as much. Like earlier when we were talking about was it TJ and Senza's team? I didn't really say that spin was an important factor on that team. The important factor on that team that was an issue was actually getting better hazard setting as a suicide lead. Didn't care about spin because you can play fast enough to where spin doesn't matter. But with a team like this, Necro's a lot slower. Zama tends to be an end game win con. You probably want the spin. Um, yeah, you don't like Spike. Like you want to make your game rid of Spike, if you can. And there'll be plenty of people that will be spiking on you. That doesn't matter. I don't think it matters, personally. My way of thinking about speed tiers in PDEX are you need elite speed, and then you need like something in the middle, like something lower between sort of 90 100. I mean, you do have a Moltres, that's fine. I think that's fine personally. Moltres can actually run faster offensive sets. It definitely can. So I don't consider it a concern. elite speed is what's important. Yeah, basically. I think the lower tiers actually round off this draft quite well. So, I don't actually. Yeah, I'll give this an eight. Hmm. I don't think it's like quite as well rounded as the X Terms one. Maybe an 8.5, but I think I lean more towards. Ah, yes, the Raging Bolt Meowscarada, never before seen. Yeah, it's a tried and true combination, and it's very good. So that's nice. However, then you put in a very Terra reliant Terra Cap as your round three. Don't really get that personally. I think that's a waste of points. Straight up waste of points. You don't need an Annihilate on this, and you can see that it's a waste of points because look at the low tiers. Um, like you really had to gather up points to do things like this. I mean, Reverum Donphan, I like the Donphan here. Donphan works. Yeah, but it's good. I don't like the fact that you don't really have a good way of dealing with grounds. Where's the ground immunity? In fact, it doesn't exist, and you've got a Harkonine and a Raging Bolt and a Reverum. That's really, really concerning. Like any like that Landorus I mean I guess it's the other division, but like any fat ground type you're gonna struggle with. You're really gonna struggle with. And especially if they scarf themselves and then you have to be forced to scarf your meow or something like that, or just use like Azumarill as a way of revenge killing it, but it's still claiming one basically every time it comes in. Or you're gonna have to run a bunch of air balloons. Oh yeah, Tusk goes to town on this team. Like really, it really does. The problem is not being able to like you can revenge the grounds on this team, but you can't switch into them, and that is an issue. Yeah. And then you can start losing thereafter. I mean, I think if you replace ape, you start messing with points a bit more. I don't know if we need this many like sort of. I don't know really why we got the Hark on this team. I think you have loads of breaking power between Raging Bolt, Meow, Azumarill. Meow can be a breaker if you put a choice band on it. Low kicks can even do that job. I think Arcanine is a little bit out of place. No, I like the low kicks here. I think that's good. Makes a lot of sense with how heavy momentum you have currently. I mean, like just with Meow, it's just kind of silly. You can keep just U-turning on repeat. But I think get rid of the Hawk. I think get rid of the Arcanine. Um, I mean, Reverend's fine. Yeah, but I would just get rid of Ape Arcanine, rejig that a little bit, make sure you have slightly better ground answers, and move the Terron to something else. You can move Terron, Reverum, or Low Kicks for that matter, and it's probably a better use than Annihilate. Yeah, like just move it to Reverum or Low Kicks. That's how I see it. And then rejig from there. Um, Otherwise it's not too bad. But 6.5 yeah, probably. So I think the top ends, yeah, okay. I think the mid tiers are a bit of a problem to where I think a 6.5 is probably justified. Yeah, Terracomo has kind of been falling down because I think people have just realised that it can struggle a little bit to find the right to be able to set up safely. Is the main thing. So it needs momentum, needs a lot of team support. Kind of there. Yeah, Treads Fundy, Pheasantipty, like Pheasantipty. Pheasantipty's a good pick here. That's cool. But I think a lot of these mid tiers are kind of just slow, somewhat bulky mons that don't really do anything. Like this team's kind of slow. Ah, actually, there's a Weavile. You do have elite speed actually. I didn't see that just because it's at the bottom. All right, I guess Weavile works. But where's your fairy killing? Like Treads is kind of okay, but it's not good enough. I would have maybe tried to. So I guess Terracoma. It's not that bad actually. Yeah, maybe a little bit more pressure on it, but I think with Terra and Como, it's probably manageable, actually. Yeah, but no Spike, which is yeah. I mean, I don't think Spike is like the key issue here. I think on a Como team, I'm not necessarily like I want to fit Spike because it's PDEX, but it's not the first thing I'm thinking about if I want to enable a Terra Como, right? Would have liked some better slow momentum, maybe a memento user or something like that. I don't really see one here. I think Sinistry gets memento actually, but it's not the best user of it. Yeah, but there's too many momentum sinks in the mid. I think a lot of these drafts. I think what I'm seeing as a kind of pattern. I think for a lot of people is that they're finding really good starting calls and then not finding ways to round it off. And that's something that I think. I mean, yeah, it's a skill, but people just sort of picking random mid tiers and not really trying to form like a game plan together because I don't really see the game plan with this team. I don't see how you're getting these Como and stuff in properly. Yeah. Yeah, I trim the fat a little bit with mid tiers and then see what you can do on that. But I mean, it's not too bad. Not too bad. I think I'd give it the same as previous. 6.5 is fair. Wonderful. How the hell have we got two teams in the same top three? Hello? Yeah, I mean they look quite similar team structure wise. Yeah, and there's still Psychic too. Although this is the inferior one because it has. Well, actually, I would say inferior because it gets explosion. But yeah, no, but it doesn't get Volt Switch. It gets rocks, yeah. Yeah. I'm not saying Metagro's that bad. It just I would have rather had the Volt Switch on Iron Crown, but it's fine. Because this team has Demon Mola. I love Mola. Yeah, no, fair enough. Yeah, plenty of hazards. Giardicuno is a good enough matchup fish to cheap Terra. That's what you want with an Amoris. You don't want a high commitment Terra cap. So that works just fine. I mean, it's kind of the same shit as the other one. I don't really like. Look, I like Flaky, but I don't think this is the right team for Flaky. I don't think you really need it that much. Yeah, sure. Honestly, if I see a Pegos, I'd rather just draft the fucking 4-point Sceptile or whatever it is, just for Shed Funny, haha. Um, so yeah, I mean that's something like I could have said about the other team as well, but like this team has a bit more space to be able to do that. Oh, Molar is just a lot better here. I don't think you need an Empo. You do not need an Empo. Um, yeah, I mean sure, Thwacky can kind of like make up for the Earthquake weakness in some places, and you have a ground type that doesn't need to click Earthquake, so it could work. I'm not saying it's not going to work. Trap Inch is a good bench warmer too. So yeah, no, the Mon's actually not bad. Very niche, but it's a good use of 1 point, is what I'll say. Yeah, I see no reason to differentiate this from the other one. Fundamentally, it's the same. It's the same team idea, just with slightly different mons. So I'm still gonna give it a 9. Mm. Yeah, there's still some cheese. Yeah, no, I agree. Terra Dengo, I actually see putting in more work than people give it credit for, so I actually don't mind it as a Terra Cap, and you have a Superior anyway. So, yeah, that's fine. Maybe would like a little bit more ways of beating grass types that Superior can sometimes struggle with. Yes, it's a Terra Cert, but you don't always want to be running Terra Fire, because Terra Fire defensively is a bit dodgy. So, um, yeah, I would have maybe liked to see a Fire type or a better Poison type than Tentacruel, but Tentacruel can work on this team. With Hamu, that makes sense. So I'm not gonna slam the Tentacle too much. I probably would say try and draft a better flying or a better fire, because Dojo is not a real Pokemon. Uh, there are some decent low tier offensive fires like Typhlosion, or the Heatwin version, which could have worked here as well. That I think would have fit pretty well into this team. So Charizard is not real. I'm sorry. So that would have been cool, but it's a pretty good HO. I think you can maybe run. Yeah, it's mostly going to be HO. Maybe occasionally you can run a BO in like very specific matchups by bringing like Garchomp. Keys can still do that. Tentacruel, Dengo, yeah, sure. But most of the time it's just gonna be an HO team. But it does a pretty good job at HO. It ticks all the HO boxes. So yeah. Yeah. I mean, surprisingly, I actually think this is pretty good. If I think I would rejig. I'd probably just get rid of Dojo Luxray and put a. There's probably Typhlosion's 4 points, right? Oh, he's swing type versions in 4, yeah. So the regular one's definitely in 4. It'll be in 3. So yeah, yeah. There you go. Just put one of those on the team, and I think that's just a lot better. Um, so and people have to prep for eruption. Yeah, 8, solid 8, 8.5 ish. But I actually think it's really good. Oh, yeah, it's nuts. Yeah. 8.5 I think is more fair actually. Yeah, Terrace's a Rillaboom makes sense. That's kind of just what you do. Would have liked to see. I mean, I guess the Necrozma went elsewhere, but some more stuff that can abuse the Rillaboom, because I don't really see that much outside of Iron Crown. I don't know why Gliscor's on this team. Gliscor makes 0 sims Rillaboom. You're not getting benefit out of grassy terrain, and you're fucking over your Earthquake, so Gliscor's completely off theme. Like, completely off theme, makes 0 sense. I also don't get Weapon Draw and Wash with Rillaboom either, but it's not really off theme, so to speak, so Rotom Wash is fine. I don't get the Gliscor thing. Gliscor is a complete waste of points. I think Terra Crown would have made more sense than Terra Comfey. Comfey's just not reliable at all. Just would have got more benefit out doing it on ground. Yeah, but if you, it's really easy to prep into if you know what you're doing. Because it can't beat fire. I mean, sure, okay, Terra it can beat fire types, but it still struggles a lot with fire types. And you don't exactly have the best stuff versus fire types anyway. It's kind of just your Rotom Wash. No, Rillaboom doesn't do anything versus fire types. Yeah, exactly. And you have two steel types that can't tear out steel. So there's that. Yeah. I don't mind the Espeon because you don't have the best hazard removal as cycles are. I mean, cycles is fine, but I don't mind the Espeon cycle. Cycle can be quite funny. Yeah, cycle Cloyster. There's some nice cheese here. Honestly, you could have just moved the Terra to the Cloyster. I would have liked that more. But yeah, I don't like the low tiers. I think Gliscor is really out of place, and you've got a bunch of low tier cheese that's not necessarily going to work well. I think much like the other team earlier, that was like the Grand team earlier, Grand Shifu. Yeah. This is going to have a similar problem to that, where I think it's going to really struggle to get into end game positions because you don't have enough mid game, early game breaking power to where you're just not going to be able to get that Caesar position properly. Unless you like pull off some cheese or like cloister, etc., where you can set up enough to take down a couple mons. Um, but like taunt, phasing, all of this stuff, you're just gonna get destroyed by it. I don't think it's reliable. It's really not. It's not consistent. That's my issue. Hmm. Hmm. Yeah, I mean, it's not terrible support for bundle actually. Corv's actually a pretty good hazard remover if you don't care about spiking up. So because you've got Corv, I mean, yeah, Quag technically fits the rest of the hazards on, but I actually just don't give a fuck about other hazards when you're running this sort of thing. That's fine. I guess you would have liked to momentum vortex them a little bit more here, considering what you're trying to build. Corv gets slow stuff in easy. It's good for bundle, good for Gengar, but Gengar's kind of underwhelming. I think Quag to Magmortar just don't. I don't know why Quag's even on this team. You're not playing balance. You're not playing stall. Stall's not viable, but you're not playing balance. And Quag only fits onto balance. So yeah, I don't know why they're here. Hell, I don't even know why Scruff is 8 points, but that's probably just an oversight. Yeah, I know. Yeah, I think it's fine for the most part. What I will say though, you're not really pressuring fightings enough for my liking. Even if it's a Terra Gambit, you still want to be pressuring those mons inherently. No fairy type sucks a little bit. No electric type sucks a lot for bundle. So you could have picked all these up within the points that you would have got if you replaced round 7 to 10. I would say round 1 6, that's fine. I'm happy enough with that. Not necessarily how I would draw things, it's a little bit slow. I think, I was talking about speed tiers earlier, but this is like when you get elite speed and then the other tiers, but I think this Gengar kind of makes up for it, but I know. Part of me feels like this team suffers a little bit more with the speed issue than the other one does, purely because Lando's mostly going to be a pivot such Gloomon here. Corv and Hydrapple are really are really slow and abusable, and Gambit still has the slow thing. So yeah, it's like I think you got a bigger gap here between fast and then slow, rather than the other one where you had some mid speeds. So yeah, I think speed's a slight issue. Bottom four don't make sense thematically. So if you reject that, this team could be a lot better. But as it stands, maybe probably like a 6.5. No, you won't, because you have Great Tusk, Taunty, Glow King, which immediately puts you at least at a 7. Honest, like, it's just... I mean, Taunty, Glow King we know from Gen 8, and we know from this gen that combination is just extremely dumb, and then you put a Terra Taunty on. Very, very good. Great Tusk supports everything you need, and Great Tusk giving you removal for a Chi-Yu is really dumb anyway. So just off top 4, that looks, like, really broken. Yeah, not quite. It's a bit here and there. I mean, I think Sizzle's a bit dodge. Because like your removal is, I mean, removal and Tusk is actually none. Why am I even talking about removal? That's not a problem. But yeah, your Spike setters is a Bramble. Your Steel can't set hazards, which means that Great Tusk has to set hazards more frequently. You don't really want to rock with Tusk that often. So at least Garg is there. Garg is there to help. Hat is there to help. But I won't say that is a problem with this team. Is where your Stealth Rocks are, because Great Tusk wants to not always run that move. So if it wants to run like more offensive stuff, which this team can pull off, I think Garg is good here because it's like a situational thing that you're probably forcing a Clovert Cloak like in a good chunk of matchups, and that just means like the less stuff is prepared for Taunty, which is nice. Maybe a little bit more momentum would have been nice, but there's enough because Glow King, Torn can basically do it on their side by themselves, but Torn doesn't always run U-turn in this feat, so maybe a bit more momentum would have been good. Yeah. I'm not saying momentum. I don't think it's a huge issue. I'm just saying it would be nice to have something more on that front. Especially with the hazard situation, which I don't think is that bad. But again, Great Tusk is having to pull a lot. I think Great Tusk is having to pull a lot of weight. Yeah. But thankfully, I don't think it needs to actually pull off wall breaking as much, all the offensive stuff, because you have Taunty, Chi Sizzle that can do that. So, not a huge problem. But, yeah, very good top end. Slightly limited, I would say, because you are quite a top heavy draft. Um, but because Taunty Glow King can kind of just do everything, yeah, I think this is like probably. I'm not sure. I feel like the Pult team, the Pult Pagos is like slightly more broken than this, so I'm gonna give it an 8 point. It's so I'm gonna give this like an 8 to 8.5. Yeah, there's a lot of VGC stuff, but I'm a big fan of Terra Glastria. Go check out my Smogon analysis on Glastria. Plug. I actually need to. I got my GP for Golem. I need to finish that. It'll be up. My Golem analysis will get uploaded soon. Anyway. Uh, Yeah, that's the thing about this is the thing. This maybe it's the golden curse, you know. So when you buff it up to 2, then suddenly no one actually drafts it for like, despite it actually like more so being at that value, it's just that it's much harder to fit onto a draft. Um, yeah. Anyway. Well, no, you could have afforded it. You could have got rid of Honchkrow Florigato for it, but no, I actually do think Honchkrow is good. Yeah. Um, I I shat on Honchkrow until I used it in SV Deck Smogon Draft, and it actually just came for a lot. So yeah, Mon actually hurts quite a lot. Anyway, on to TKL's team properly. Yeah, I mean, if you told me that this was a VGC team, this would be broken as shit. Like, this would be so broken. Holy crap. I'd give it like almost a 10 out of 10. Maybe a little bit more like prank support, whatever. But anyway. Some people are going to have to bear in mind TR because, like, the TR mode on this team's actually quite good. And it doesn't need to use it. So that's a really nice prep threat thing that people do have to bear in mind because lots of people don't prep for Trick Room and then can get bodied by it. And this team can definitely bring Trick Room. So, yes, exactly. Yeah, Terra Caps are fine. I do like both of these, so I'm not gonna. I think those are okay. Even if like slightly like you don't have the super high tier Terra, but you don't need it. You really don't. Um, I'm a big horse fan, obviously, so I'm always gonna plug it. What I will say though is it's actually true. Yeah, you do have that. I just realized. So funny. Yeah, no. So Spectra likes to have the big dark, and Incin is not the right big dark, unfortunately. It's not VGC. Spectra Incin is amazing in VGC, but unfortunately, Incin is too slow in this format and not necessarily offensive enough considering it's weak to rocks. So would have picked up a different dark type, would have spent a bit more points on a dark type instead of maybe a Lando Eye, for example. I don't think the Lando Eye is really needed. So yeah, I'm not sure really where that came from. I think you would have liked another flying resist. Actually, no, you can do flying's enough between Glamoran and Terra Hands. Yeah, okay, I'm not going to complain about that. Flying's actually dealt with fine. Yes, yeah, I'm not. It was just at a glance because your electric type was thing to it, and then you got achieve your rapid. But no, that's actually fine. Big concern is the dark. That's the main thing that I'm seeing. Would have really prioritized that for Spectra. At least you have you do have the fightings though, and the fightings are important. So it's good to see that that's been done because you still pressure darks and normals with that. But getting the big dark is really nice because it also means you're not going to lose to opposing Ghost Stab, for example, or the psychic types that you're actually quite weak to inherently. Yes. So yeah, better dark, and I think this team would be significantly better. I'm not sure how you'd rejig it. I think yeah, it's a bit tough. I think maybe you just drop the Lando Eye, drop in Sin, find some kind of mid ground between those two for the ground type breaking plus the dark. Yeah, Crocodile would work. That would work. Yeah, that would do it. Then you can pick up Wisp on something else maybe, but you have Wisp on Spectrus, it's not a huge deal. Um, I actually don't mind it that much aside from that problem, so I want to give it 7.5 just because maybe it's my bias for like Glastria, but anyway, I actually don't think it's that bad, even if it's a bit unorthodox. I mean, the Terra Caps are great, so that's a good start. Powerfin always likes. I mean, Drill Powerfin's kind of similar to Treads, but worse because you don't have the Volt Switch on it. Wait, when was Treads picked up? Yeah, so you could have got Treads with Palafin. So I think that's a little bit of a throw to go for gouging instead of Treads. But not a huge deal. That's fine. Gouging Fire can break the grass types that Paladin doesn't want to deal with, so I can see it, but I think you can pick that up in like so many different other spots. You don't need a Gouging Fire. That's fine. I will say momentum's a bit slow, a bit low. Paladin really likes to have that. Even Latias does because you're not getting momentum with it itself. It's just a setup threat. You have a lot of setup threats actually, which are a bit prone to getting fucked by everything that these setup threats. Which means the prep is actually kind of the same thing for a lot of the mons that you're using. Um, yeah, many of the Grimsnell for HO modes, which this team doesn't actually run super well, in my opinion. I don't think Lati's an HO mon, but it's a great setup mon, but I don't really see it on HO as much personally. But yeah, maybe get rid of Glowbro. I guess Glowbro can do the funny haha with like raw. Yeah. No, I see the game plan. I just think it's a bit underwhelming. I think that's the best way for me to put it. It just feels underwhelming. I can't really like explain super well why I feel that. Yeah, you do. Hippopotas is not that easy to bring, but yeah. I mean, fundamentally, this isn't that bad. It just feels off to me. I'm gonna give it a 7 for that reason. So that immediately puts you in a position where you have a really good cleaner. So now what you need is a bunch of strong braking, and you've actually managed to do that by drafting a Baxcalibur, Ursaluna, Blood Moon. So that's nice. And Dogi's actually quite a competent breaker. So I don't mind those three. But then we've just got a bunch of passive defensive stuff in Clefable, Heat, and such, which I think is just going to get you abused, and then you're going to be the one prone to getting wall breaked. So I would have liked to be a little bit less passive, less momentum sinky, considering you have momentum sinky breakers. So I don't know why we got the Clef. I think Clef's really out of place. Manibuzz I don't mind quite as much. But yeah, they do, but they're also still somewhat passive at the same time. But they're fine. They're fine. I just don't like the Clef, I think, is the main one. And then whenever I see a Bax, why isn't there a Slowking? Why isn't there a Slowking? Regular Slowking looks so good here. You have a fighting weakness in the backs, you have a fighting weakness. Plus, Lunar Blood Moon, the only way you're covering is a Clef, but Clef is not a good way of covering for that. Iron Leaves makes zero sense. Sacking Dust Knot is a waste of point. Inteleon also is probably not that good either. I don't know why you shot it here. I just slap the Terra on. Just slap the Terra onto the Okidogi. Just put it on the Okidogi. Call it a day. Yeah, this team really wants a Slowking, is what I'll say about that. And then I guess, yeah, because you have a good enough Dark type in Mandibuzz. Mandibuzz will fuck over anyone that's trying to deal with like the double Psychic stack in. Boulder doesn't even count as a Psychic anyway, because it's a fucking Terra Boulder. It's just cleaning. So, yeah, that's my opinion on that. I think Clef is my big concern, and then Inteleon Iron Leaves plus the bottom two just I think are a bit of a point waste. So rejig that a little bit, and I think you have a lot better. But I see the game plan, and if the breakers are positioned well, then this team can actually do a lot of damage. So, down to give us a 7 as well. Yeah, I don't know. Luchastic's team really stands out to me. I actually quite like it a lot. Even it's not something I would pilot, but I don't really see this type of team that often, like this sort of HO. I mean, it just looks dumb from the top end, but I think this team is quite good as is. If you put a fire type on it, it's even better. I like it a lot. I think it would be very fun to watch it play. Like the lines make a lot of sense to me inherently, just at a glance. But you could do spike stack stuff too. Stack a bunch of hazards, play HO. They'll struggle to remove hazards because you can set up in their face. I think yeah, the Pult, Enam, Pagos ones, yeah, because that top three is just too disgusting inherently.
Hi, it's Daizuk. I doubt Allo's gonna listen to this segment, so I put it here. Do me a favor and comment "Snipe, you bitch!" bracket affectionate bracket. Hopefully he doesn't see this part, so that I can keep it in when this video gets uploaded. Okay, thanks.